Ladies and gentlemen, real strength begins when you stop apologizing for who you are. Because the world has taught women to shrink themselves, to speak softly even when they have something powerful to say, and to smile even when their souls are breaking. From a young age, society begins to whisper rules into a woman's ear. Be kind, but not too assertive. Be ambitious, but not intimidating. Be beautiful, but not too confident. It's as if the world fears the full power of a woman who knows herself. But real strength does not come from obeying these unwritten rules. It comes from breaking them with dignity and self-respect. It comes from standing in your truth, even when that truth makes others uncomfortable. When you stop apologizing for your voice, your dreams, your opinions, your emotions, and your desires, that's when you begin to step into your true power. You are not here to fit into a box someone else built for you. You are here to create your own space, to walk your own path, and to shine in your own light. Every time you say, "I'm sorry," for being yourself, you chip away a little piece of your own confidence. You train your mind to believe that who you are is somehow wrong or too much. But you are not too much. You are exactly enough. The softness in your voice, the fire in your eyes, the dreams that scare you, they are all part of your divine design. When you learn to honor every part of yourself, even the parts you once tried to hide, you begin to build a foundation of unshakable strength. Because true power does not come from perfection, it comes from authenticity. The world doesn't need another imitation. It needs a woman who has the courage to be real, raw, and unapologetically herself. The moment you stop apologizing for your truth, you give permission to other women to do the same. Your authenticity becomes a mirror that reflects courage in others. When you stand tall in your uniqueness, you create a ripple effect that awakens freedom in those still trapped by fear and self-doubt. You may not realize it, but your decision to own your voice can be the light that guides another woman out of her own darkness. That is the silent revolution of authenticity. It spreads without words through presence alone. You don't have to shout your worth. You simply have to live it. Many women apologize not because they are wrong, but because they have been conditioned to believe that confidence is arrogance. But there is a profound difference between the two. Confidence says, "I know who I am and I'm proud of it." Arrogance says, "I'm better than you." Real strength lives in the space between humility and self-assurance. It's when you can look at yourself in the mirror and say, "I am enough," without needing validation from anyone else. That's the kind of quiet power that transforms lives. It doesn't need to compete. It simply exists with grace. It doesn't need approval. It shines because it knows its own worth. When you stop apologizing for your boundaries, your energy begins to shift. You no longer entertain conversations that drain you or relationships that belittle you. You start walking away from what no longer serves your peace, not because you are cruel, but because you finally respect yourself enough to choose better. That is what strength looks like in its purest form. The courage to choose yourself without guilt. You don't have to explain why you walked away from chaos, why you took time for yourself, or why you said no. Every no to someone else is a yes to your peace, your healing, and your purpose. A woman who stops apologizing for her emotions becomes powerful beyond measure. For too long, women have been told that showing emotion is a sign of weakness. But the truth is that emotions are the soul's way of speaking. To feel deeply is not a flaw, it is a form of wisdom. It means you are alive, aware, and connected to the depth of your humanity. When you honor your emotions instead of suppressing them, You build emotional intelligence, the ability to understand yourself and others with compassion. That's what makes you strong. The ability to cry and still carry on, to love again after being broken, to forgive even when it hurts. That is divine resilience. You don't need to apologize for feeling too deeply. You only need to understand that your emotions are your strength, not your shame. Real strength also means accepting your past without regret. Every mistake, every heartbreak, every failure was part of the journey that shaped your wisdom. You don't have to apologize for the woman you used to be. She was learning. She was growing. She was surviving. Instead of judging her, thank her for getting you here. When you embrace your evolution without guilt, you stop living in the shadow of who you were and begin walking in the light of who you are becoming. The woman who no longer apologizes for her past is free. Free to rewrite her story, free to love herself completely, free to walk into her future without fear. Sometimes strength means standing alone. There will be times when you make choices that others don't understand, when your truth offends those who benefit from your silence, and when your growth makes others uncomfortable. Do not apologize for outgrowing people, places, or situations that no longer align with your peace. Growth is supposed to create distance. It's supposed to refine your circle. Not everyone deserves access to your energy. Protecting your peace is not selfish, it is self-love in motion. A strong woman knows that solitude is not loneliness. It is sacred space where clarity and power are born. When you stop apologizing for needing time alone, you start hearing the voice of your soul more clearly. Real strength also means celebrating your achievements without shame. How many times have women been told to tone it down, to make others feel comfortable around their success? But the truth is, you should never dim your light just because it shines too brightly for someone else's eyes. You worked for your victories. You cried through your challenges. You earned every step of your growth. Celebrating yourself is not arrogance. It's gratitude. You're not boasting. You're acknowledging the grace that carried you through. When you own your success without guilt, you inspire others to do the same. You show the world that women can be both humble and powerful, both kind and confident, both gentle and unstoppable. There's also strength in saying, "I don't know," and still trusting yourself enough to learn. Women are often pressured to have all the answers, to be perfect in every role: mother, partner, friend, leader. But real strength comes from embracing imperfection. You don't have to have it all figured out to be worthy. You don't have to be perfect to be powerful. The moment you stop apologizing for not knowing everything, you open yourself to growth. You allow yourself to be human, beautifully flawed and constantly evolving. That is where true wisdom begins. It's not in pretending to be strong all the time. It's in having the courage to be real. When you stop apologizing for your ambitions, you begin to rise. Society has long labeled ambitious women as aggressive or selfish, but ambition is the heartbeat of purpose. It's what drives you to create, to build, to lead, to inspire. You have every right to dream big, to take up space, to demand more from life. You don't have to downplay your vision to make others feel comfortable. You are not intimidating, they are simply unprepared for your magnitude. The woman who refuses to shrink is the one who changes the world, not by force but by presence, by being unapologetically herself. Every time you choose authenticity over approval, you strengthen the foundation of your spirit. You begin to realize that you never needed permission to be yourself. You were born worthy, born powerful, born enough. The apology you've been giving the world for existing as your full self It's time to take it back. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your light, your boundaries, your beliefs, or your journey. You owe it to yourself to live in truth, and that truth will set you free. Free to walk with grace, free to speak with conviction, free to rise with power. Because real strength begins, not when the world validates you, but when you stop apologizing for simply being who you are. Healing your heart is the first step to reclaiming your power, because a wounded heart cannot carry the weight of greatness. Too often, we try to build new dreams on broken foundations, pretending the pain doesn't exist, smiling through tears, acting strong while our souls silently bleed. But you cannot heal what you refuse to feel, and you cannot rise while still holding on to what hurt you. Healing is not weakness. It is the most courageous act of self-love. It means facing the parts of yourself you've avoided for years, the parts that ache, the memories that haunt you, the betrayals that changed you. It means sitting in the quiet with your pain, not to suffer, but to understand. Because healing is not about forgetting what happened. It's about learning to live with what happened without letting it define you. A healed heart doesn't erase the past, it transforms it into wisdom. Every woman carries scars, some seen, others buried deep within. Those scars tell the story of survival, of endurance, of nights you thought you wouldn't make it, but somehow did. The world often teaches women to suppress their pain, to keep going no matter how broken they feel. Be strong, they say, as if strength means ignoring your wounds. But real strength is in the woman who pauses long enough to tend to her own heart, who dares to rest, who dares to weep, who dares to feel. Because the woman who heals is the woman who becomes whole, and wholeness is the foundation of power. A healed woman doesn't react, she responds. She doesn't chase closure, she creates peace. She doesn't seek revenge, she seeks growth. Healing gives her the clarity to see that pain was never her identity. It was her teacher. To heal your heart is to reclaim the parts of yourself you gave away to people who never valued them. It's to look back at the times you lowered your standards, silenced your voice, or accepted less than you deserved, and forgive yourself for not knowing better. Forgiveness is one of the hardest steps in healing because it doesn't always come with an apology from the one who hurt you. Sometimes you have to forgive people who never said they were sorry. Sometimes you have to forgive yourself for the times you stayed too long in pain that was trying to teach you to leave. Forgiveness is not approval of what happened. It's freedom from what keeps you stuck. When you forgive, you break the chains that tie you to bitterness. You open your heart again, not for them, but for yourself. Because love cannot live in a heart still filled with resentment. There is a quiet kind of power that comes when you start healing. You begin to see that every heartbreak, every disappointment, every betrayal was redirecting you toward something better. You begin to understand that nothing you lost was meant to destroy you. It was meant to awaken you. Healing teaches you patience, because the heart doesn't heal on command. It needs time, care, and gentleness. It needs silence and solitude. You can't rush your recovery, and you can't measure your healing by how quickly you stop crying. Healing is not a straight line, it's a spiral. Some days you'll feel strong and free, other days the memories will sting again. But every time you rise after a setback, every time you choose peace over pain, you are healing. You are reclaiming a piece of yourself that pain tried to steal. When you start to heal, you begin to see the world differently. You no longer view people through the lens of your wounds. You stop expecting others to fix what they didn't break. You stop chasing love to fill your emptiness, because you finally understand that love cannot heal what self-love has neglected. Healing teaches you that peace doesn't come from others doing right by you. It comes from you doing right by yourself. You start creating boundaries not to keep people out, but to keep your energy safe. You stop explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. You stop fighting for closure and start choosing inner calm. That is when your power returns quietly, steadily, like sunlight creeping into a dark room. Healing your heart means confronting your pain with compassion, not judgment. You must allow yourself to feel the anger, the sadness, the betrayal, not to dwell in them, but to understand them. Emotions are messengers, not enemies. They come to show you what needs attention, what needs release. When you numb your pain, you also numb your joy. When you suppress your sadness, you suppress your capacity to love deeply. The heart was not designed to be perfect. It was designed to feel. So, when you heal, you're not fixing yourself, you're remembering yourself. You're remembering that before the heartbreak, before the trauma, before the loss, you were whole. Healing brings you back to that place, not by erasing the pain, but by integrating it into your story with wisdom and strength. There's a powerful moment in every woman's healing journey when she realizes she doesn't have to carry the past anymore. She can acknowledge it, honor it, and let it rest. Healing doesn't mean pretending nothing happened. It means saying, "Did happen, and I'm still here." It means looking at the pain and saying, "You taught me." It means being grateful not for the suffering, but for the survival. When you can look back without bitterness, when you can remember without resentment, that's when you know you've healed. The heart, once healed, becomes a sanctuary, not a battlefield. You begin to protect your peace the way you once protected your pain. You start living from love instead of fear. You start attracting people and experiences that reflect your new vibration. Because healing changes your energy, and your energy changes your life. Healing also requires honesty, the kind of honesty that can shake you. You have to be brave enough to admit what hurt you, what broke you, and what you still carry. You have to be willing to look in the mirror and see where you betrayed yourself by staying silent, by settling, by pretending to be okay. The truth may hurt, but it's the only thing that can set you free. Healing asks you to release the illusions that kept you comfortable but stuck. It asks you to stop waiting for others to apologize, to stop expecting closure from chaos, to stop hoping people will turn into who you needed them to be. You have to accept what is, not what you wish it was. That acceptance doesn't make you weak, it makes you wise. Because when you stop fighting reality, you begin to flow with life again. There will be moments during your healing when loneliness will visit you. The silence may feel heavy, the nights may stretch long, and you may wonder if it's worth it. But solitude is not punishment, it's purification. In solitude, you rediscover yourself. You learn to enjoy your own company, to listen to your own thoughts, to find peace in your own presence. When you stop running from the quiet, you realize that everything you've been searching for outside has always lived within. Healing teaches you that peace is not found in distraction, but in awareness. It's not found in rushing ahead, but in being still long enough to hear your own heart whisper what it needs. As your heart heals, your self-worth rises. You stop begging for love and start attracting it naturally because you finally see your value. You no longer tolerate inconsistency, dishonesty, or disrespect. You become discerning, not out of fear, but out of self-respect. You learn that not everyone deserves a seat at your table. Some people were lessons, not lifelong companions. You thank them for the role they played, and you let them go. Letting go is not losing, it's trusting. It's trusting that the universe will fill the space with something better, something aligned with your healed heart. When you let go with love instead of bitterness, you make room for blessings to flow freely again. Healing is also about learning to receive. Many women are givers by nature, pouring themselves into others until they are empty. But you cannot pour from an empty cup. Healing teaches you to receive love, rest, and care without guilt. You learn that taking care of yourself is not selfish, it's sacred. You start treating yourself with the same kindness you give others. You rest when you need to. You feed your soul with beauty, laughter, music, and prayer. You learn to say yes to what nourishes you and no to what drains you. That is how you rebuild your heart, not through punishment, but through compassion. You give yourself permission to feel joy again, to trust again, to dream again. As you heal, you begin to realize that the power you were searching for outside of yourself has been within you all along. Pain only distracted you from it. When your heart heals, your intuition sharpens. You begin to trust your inner voice again. You start making decisions from peace, not fear. You stop reacting to every wound and start responding from wisdom. That is how healing restores your power. It gives you back your clarity, your confidence, and your calm. You become the woman who no longer chases validation because she already knows her worth. You become the woman who no longer begs for love because she already embodies it. You become the woman who no longer fears being alone because she knows she is whole. Healing your heart also means learning to trust life again. After pain, it's natural to build walls, to protect yourself from being hurt again. But those same walls that keep out pain also keep out love. Healing is about opening your heart, not to everyone, but to life itself. It's about believing that joy is still possible, that new beginnings are still available, that you are still deserving of miracles. It's about walking forward with faith, knowing that your scars are not signs of weakness, but symbols of strength. The heart that has been broken and healed becomes more compassionate, more patient, more powerful than ever before. It knows pain, but it also knows peace. It knows loss, but it also knows love in its truest form, the love that begins within. A healed heart glows differently. There's a serenity in your presence, a softness in your voice, a quiet confidence that can't be shaken. You don't need to prove anything anymore. You've faced your shadows and made peace with them. You've stopped running from your emotions and started dancing with them. That's what makes you powerful. Because healing doesn't make you untouchable, it makes you real. And realness is where your magic lives. When you heal, you reclaim every fragment of yourself that pain once scattered. You gather your strength piece by piece until you stand whole again. Not as the woman you were before the pain, but as the woman you became because of it. You become unstoppable when you turn your pain into purpose, because pain is not meant to destroy you, it is meant to awaken you. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every loss carries within it a seed of transformation. Most people run from their pain, trying to hide it beneath distractions, work, relationships, or silence. But pain has a way of finding you until you listen to what it came to teach. There is power hidden inside every wound, a lesson that can lead you toward your destiny if you're brave enough to face it. When you stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" That's the moment your healing begins to turn into power. Because pain, when embraced and understood, becomes the very fuel that drives your purpose forward. It becomes the fire that refines you, the teacher that molds you, and the storm that strengthens your roots. Every woman who has ever achieved greatness has walked through pain. Not one soul on this earth rises without struggle. The difference between those who remain broken and those who become unstoppable is that the unstoppable ones choose to turn their suffering into strength. They take the ashes of what was meant to destroy them and use them to build something beautiful. They stop viewing pain as punishment and start seeing it as preparation. Every disappointment becomes direction. Every rejection becomes redirection. Every heartbreak becomes a revelation. Pain becomes purpose the moment you decide it will not define you, but refine you. The woman who learns to alchemize her pain into wisdom becomes a force that nothing can silence. Turning pain into purpose begins with acceptance. You cannot transform what you deny. You have to face your pain without fear, without shame, without running from it. Sit with it. Let it speak. It will tell you what needs healing, what needs letting go, what needs changing. Sometimes your pain is pointing you toward your calling. The very thing that broke your heart may become the thing you are destined to heal in others. Many women who nurture, teach, counsel, or create art do so from a place of once being wounded. The woman who was once silenced becomes the voice for those who still are. The woman who once felt unworthy becomes the light that helps others see their worth. That is the divine exchange of pain into purpose. It's how life turns suffering into service, wounds into wisdom, and heartbreak into healing for others. When you start to turn pain into purpose, you stop being a victim of your story and start becoming the author of it. You realize that life didn't happen to you, it happened for you. Every hardship shaped your strength. Every tear watered your growth. Every closed door led you closer to the one meant for you. There is nothing wasted in the life of a woman who chooses to learn from her pain. Even the darkest seasons hold seeds of purpose. You just have to be patient enough to let them bloom. And when they do, you begin to understand why things had to happen the way they did. The pieces start to fit, and the chaos begins to make sense. That's when you start walking in power, not because life got easier, but because you got wiser. Pain is one of life's greatest teachers. It strips away illusions, reveals truth, and exposes what really matters. When you go through deep pain, you discover who you truly are beneath the masks and expectations. You meet the raw, unfiltered version of yourself, the one who is resilient, resourceful, and real. Pain introduces you to your inner strength. You never know how strong you are until being strong is your only choice. It's in those moments of breaking that you find the parts of yourself that were always unbreakable. The woman who survives heartbreak learns empathy. The woman who walks through loss learns gratitude. The woman who endures betrayal learns discernment. Pain gifts you with qualities that no comfort ever could. It expands your capacity to love, to forgive, to understand, to rise. But turning pain into purpose requires courage. It's easy to stay bitter, to hold on to anger, to let resentment harden your heart. It's harder to rise above it, to look at what hurt you and choose to grow instead of hate. The world tells you that strength means never showing weakness, but real strength means transforming your weakness into wisdom. It means standing in your pain and saying, "This will not destroy me. I will use it to become better." Every time you choose forgiveness over vengeance, peace over chaos, growth over comfort, you turn your pain into power. That power is not loud or forceful, it's calm, grounded, and unstoppable. It's the kind of strength that moves mountains quietly. Your purpose often lies in the very place you were once wounded. The woman who was abandoned learns to teach self-worth. The woman who was silenced learns to speak truth. The woman who was underestimated learns to empower others. Pain gives birth to purpose because it awakens empathy. You begin to see the pain of others through the lens of your own experience. You no longer judge, you understand. You no longer react. You respond with compassion. That's how your pain becomes sacred. It becomes the bridge that connects you to others, the language that helps you comfort those walking the same road you once walked. When your pain begins to serve others, it stops being a burden and starts becoming your gift. Turning pain into purpose also means using it as motivation. Let your heartbreak drive you toward healing. Your failures push you toward mastery. Your losses remind you to cherish what remains. Every time life knocks you down, get up with more clarity, more grace, more determination. That's how warriors are made, not in ease, but in endurance. Every scar becomes a medal, every setback a story of resilience. You learn to thank your pain, not because it was pleasant, but because it made you powerful. Without the struggle, you would not have discovered your strength. Without the fire, you would not have found your light. The woman who learns to turn her wounds into wisdom becomes unstoppable. Because she no longer fears the fire, she becomes it. Pain also sharpens your purpose by teaching you empathy. When you've walked through the valley, you know how to guide others out of theirs. You begin to use your story not as a source of shame, but as a source of strength. You tell it not to relive the pain, but to remind others that healing is possible. Your story becomes medicine for someone else's wounds. That is the beauty of transformation. Your suffering becomes someone else's survival guide. You show others that brokenness is not the end, that beauty can rise from ashes. And in doing so, you find deeper meaning in your own journey. You realize that your pain had purpose all along, not just to strengthen you, but to serve through you. There is a quiet power in knowing that nothing you've endured was in vain. Every tear taught you empathy. Every loss taught you gratitude. Every heartbreak taught you boundaries. Pain refines your character. It teaches humility when ego wants to take over. It reminds you that control is an illusion, that surrender is strength. When you stop fighting pain and start learning from it, you gain wisdom that no book can teach. You learn that peace is not the absence of pain, but the mastery of it. You stop asking for an easy life and start asking for the courage to live fully, no matter what comes. That's what makes you unstoppable. Your ability to keep loving, to keep believing, to keep rising, even after everything tried to break you. When you transform pain into purpose, you no longer waste energy on proving yourself. You stop trying to make people see your worth because you already know it. The opinions of others lose their power over you. You become anchored in truth, your truth. Pain taught you that not everyone will understand your journey, and that's okay. You don't need understanding to keep moving forward. You walk in purpose, even when you walk alone. You learn to trust the process, to trust the timing, to trust that everything you went through was necessary for your becoming. You no longer chase closure or approval. You simply keep becoming, keep evolving, keep glowing from within. Turning pain into purpose also demands surrender. You must release the need to control how things unfold. You must allow life to unfold in its own divine rhythm. Sometimes the purpose behind your pain is revealed years later in a conversation, in a calling, in a moment of clarity. But it always comes. Nothing that is meant for you is ever truly lost. When you trust that truth, you can breathe again. You can stop clinging to what hurt you and start embracing what's ahead. Surrender is not giving up. It's giving over. giving over the struggle, the confusion, the questions, and allowing something greater to guide you. That is where peace lives, and peace is power. There is also beauty in realizing that pain shapes your compassion. It humbles you. It teaches you to see the humanity in everyone. When you've suffered deeply, you stop judging quickly. You become slower to anger, quicker to forgive, softer in your words, stronger in your boundaries. You understand that everyone is fighting battles unseen. That understanding becomes your strength, because the woman who has known pain deeply loves deeply, and her love carries a weight, a wisdom, a sincerity that can move mountains. She doesn't need to shout her strength. She lives it through kindness, grace, and authenticity. When you turn pain into purpose, you start living with intention. You stop existing just to survive and start creating meaning in everything you do. You choose work that fulfills you, relationships that honor you, habits that uplift you. You align your life with your values. You no longer waste time in spaces that drain your energy. You use your lessons as guiding lights, helping you make choices that reflect your growth. Pain, once transformed, becomes your compass. It shows you what truly matters and what doesn't. It reminds you that time is precious, that love is sacred, that peace is priceless. You begin to live more consciously, more presently, more gratefully. The woman who turns pain into purpose no longer sees her scars as flaws. She sees them as proof of survival. Each one tells a story, not of suffering, but of strength. She wears her scars with pride, not shame, because she knows what it took to earn them. They are reminders of everything she's overcome, everything she's endured, everything she's become. They remind her that she is not defined by her pain, but by her perseverance. And when she walks into a room, people feel her energy, the calm of someone who has been through fire and emerged glowing. That energy cannot be faked. It comes from living through what tried to destroy you and still choosing to rise. The journey of turning pain into purpose never truly ends. It evolves as you do. Every new challenge becomes another opportunity to grow, to learn, to deepen your understanding of yourself and of life. And with each transformation, you become more unstoppable, not because life stops testing you, but because you no longer fear the tests. You've learned that everything, even the painful parts, is working for your evolution. You've learned that within every breakdown lies the blueprint of a breakthrough. You've learned that pain is temporary, but purpose is eternal. And when you finally embrace that truth, nothing can stop you from becoming all that you were created to be.